and we've got all these stylistic differences. That said, Voltairix from France is known as one of the best players in EU. Obviously, a lot of players would call him the best in EU.
It's interesting. So when you have a global game like this, you have sort of regional metas develop. So in a sense, it's actually going to be about which players are able to adapt most quickly to whatever tournament meta they're seeing, because it's not like just playing on your server with how people choose to econ and when they choose to roll. You have to sort of read the actual map and see what other players are doing. And I think really flexible players, like for instance, Voltairix is really well known for his transitions, are going to thrive. So flexibility is king here.
Flexibility that we'll potentially see right off the start. This is the first game of the day, first lobby. Looks like we're going to be hanging out with Chen for the first portion of this. Picked up a bow on the Caitlyn to start things off.
Yeah, and if you take a bow in the first carousel, it's usually an indicator that you want to try to play that 6 Blade Master, Master Yi reroll comp. You can pivot from it, but we'll see. The nice thing is that we're on Plunder Planet, right? So if he's able to, you know, get a champion kill every round, he'll be able to get that extra gold, and then that'll help him get to the point where he's able to slow roll, try to find those 3 stars a little bit quicker, if that's what the plan really is.
Yeah, and
on the right of your screen.
Go ahead. Sorry,
go ahead, Primal.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, when it comes to bow, it's an interesting start because it's a core item for certain comps, but at the same time, it's not a great early game item because there's not a lot of things that you want to slam immediately that help you snowball. And on Plunder Planet, it's really important that you're strong early to make up that gold. So I'd like to see what happens if he doesn't get the items for Yi reroll, how he chooses to play it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to be ready to adapt for sure. And his items early are a little bit awkward. Belt, cloak, and bow. So not really any major slammable items right off the bat. And like you mentioned, Primal, it's going to be a little bit difficult now because you want to win early, right? You want to be able to get that gold rolling. But it looks like you're going to switch over to a Voltairix, I believe, and see what he's up to.
An EU frontrunner, despite not technically being the #1 seed qualifier from EU, definitely at the forefront for a lot of people in the predictive aspect, cited for a lot of his strength in transitioning during the mid-game. But I'm actually a bit curious as to how the fact that it's an early game prioritization on a planet like this, Primal, when you have items in some of these regions that are known to be more aggressive, like Korea, like China, that tend to prioritize in the early game, do you think they'll have an advantage in a situation like this?
Yeah, I think they'll tend to be more comfortable in a really high tempo lobby. Generally in Korea, you'll see people only econing to 20 or 30 gold before rolling instead of, you know, more slow place metas like North America where people like to go 40 or 50 gold. But here, I mean, if I'm Voltairix, I don't really care what meta I'm in because I have Jace with an Ionic Spark and a Leona too. I'm win streaking no matter what. Dude. So he's probably really happy with his start right now.
Yeah, he's super strong right now. And especially like whenever you find a Jace early, like look at that damage. So he gets the gold. If you can add Space Pirate onto this, which he does have, that's even more gold. So Calcifer from Colombia on the other side, taking a hit early. But yeah, if I'm Voltairix, I'm feeling really good. And there's a lot of things you could go into from this.
It is nice when you can get an item like Ionic Spark early on that you can transition onto something if needed. You don't feel like you're having to completely lock into a composition.
Yeah, and it's just such a flexible item, right? You can go mech from here, you can put it on the mech, you can play Star Guardians here, you put it on the Nico. So it's just a great use of a cloak as well, because everyone knows what it's like to get cloak later in the game. You're like, I really needed a sword right now, so I guess I'll make it work. So, but getting an early cloak, if you get a rod, is actually one of the best ways to win streak. And putting it on the Jace helps ensure that he gets that Space Pirate gold, because Jace will be more likely to get the last hits. So from here, I mean, he can go pretty much wherever he wants.
Yeah, and he's really got the ideal beginning too, because how Jace and Darius tend to work together in a lot of fights is Jace. If you put Jace and Darius next to each other, the Jace will usually end up ulting first and softening up targets for Darius to then start getting the resets on. So if this is kind of something you can take into your own games. If you're playing this, generally try to keep Jace and Darius next to each other because they work together very well in terms of helping Darius get those resets. We're a long way away from the Space Jam comps of old, but Darius can still be decent in the early game, but he'll probably be looking to transition fairly soon to something else now.
Not quite
And
the
if he
same
doesn't-
dunking on heads.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, one spicy thing he could do, I think this is a little bit risky in a tournament, is he could go Space Pirate, right? He could just say, you know what, I already got the Ionic for Gangplank. Let me try to get a GA for him as well. I'll play this Jason Darius all the way through, stage 6. The only issue with Space Pirate is if you don't hit the Gangplank, it's a little bit difficult to transition. So it's a little bit of a risky play for a tournament, but he has the units and he's win streaking already. So it's an option.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's if he really does get rolling with Space Pirates, he can take it a lot farther. But I would love to see 4 Space Pirates end up doing well in a global championships game. It went from about a meme to like maybe once in a while you can play it kind of build. Into our second carousel. Ooh, 2 more bows. So Achen might be happy with that if he's still thinking Blade Masters. If he can get
At
one.
the top of the lobby, though. That's the only unfortunate thing. You see those there, and you think, I would love to be able to snag one of those, but likely to be prioritized by some others.
They're generally kind of a little bit of a low-demand item, so a lot of times you can get it even if you're at the top. So he might actually get one. I want to see if he grabs this or not. Oh, he's going to bypass it. Okay. Wait, does he grab it? Voltarius, go back to the carousel. He does. Okay, all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it looks
He
like
switched at the
Voltarius-
perfect moment.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Voltarius, for helping us cast here. So it's interesting that Voltarius chose to go for the glove. He's choosing to just play as flexibly as possible and play into his win streak. I actually really love this because while you don't have any direction in Plunder Planet, you just want to get as much gold as possible so that gold will allow you to just roll down and go any direction you want. That said, if he's committing a Thief's Glove, it's not sort of a core item for any comp except arguably Cybers, where you would put it on Aurelia. So what he's probably looking to do is just win streak, go 8 or 9 as quickly as possible, and look for 5 costs. I actually think we might get a Space Pirate game here, but we'll see.
Yeah, we might. I was doubting at first, but I'm starting to believe, which would be great. And with 2 Jaces, this is kind of one of the situations where you really consider going for it. Can he win this fight, though? No, it doesn't look like it.
Too tanky.
A
No,
little
maybe.
too
Oh,
much.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, decent
So that's a little bit
survivability,
rough.
especially with the Vanguard online, but unfortunately, damage output on the
Yeah.
other side, a little too much for them to overcome.
Yeah, you need to, like Primal was saying, you kind of need to win streak if you're going to play out the Space Pirates. There's another Darius, so if he can find a Jace 2 or a Darius 2, he can probably stay on this track. But if he doesn't find one of those soon, he's probably going to be kind of thinking about swapping, picking up a couple, picking up a Dark Star, picking up an Ash. That's another possible direction to target in the mid game, but he's still pretty open at this point, like pretty much everybody is, except for Achen, who's win streaking and planning on going Blade Master. So.
So Achen is in an
committed.
incredibly good position right now, right? Because generally with Blade Masters, you want to be win streaking, at least if you have your rapid fire cannon. But if you don't have your rapid fire cannon, you want to be lose streaking to get that item, or you're hoping that you just kind of get it from Krugs. So Achen, if he is planning on running Master Yi reroll, I hope he already has the rapid fire cannon. And if he does, it's looking like a top 4 game already for him.
Yeah, it certainly could. Man, 2 Jaces is just so strong. That's, Jace, honestly, Space Pirates, not necessarily the synergy. The synergy's cool, but just the Space Pirate units themselves have been one of my favorite parts about Set 3. Just the big damage from the Jace, the resets from the Darius, Graves being annoying and blinding people, and GP just, like, blowing up the board. All 4 Space Pirate units have just been really fun to play with in a bunch of different comps this season.
Oh, man. He had a
Right along with
Shaco, too.
Achen.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He's a Shaco too at Krugs, and he already has a bow for him too. That's Ashen's got to be feeling really good. He got a smug grin on his face. That's how I'd be feeling too from this spot. So if I'm him, I just say, look, let's just go Dark Star. Let's try to get a rapid fire cannon on this Shaco. Let's try to get some swords, hopefully, so you can build the Bloodthirster and Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel being arguably the more important one. But it looked like before he was actually thinking about Cybers, because he did have a bow on the vein, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like his items are supporting either Shaco or Cybers at the moment. Yeah, the items are a little bit scuffed.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he just plays flexibly and hopefully gets what he needs later in the next round of PvE.
I mean, I guess he could make a Last Whisper for Vayne, but it is a little bit awkward. And like you said, you do really want to play around that Shaco too if you can. Because, you know, he could, if you put an RFC on Shaco, that makes Shaco really good already. And then if you could do like a Hextech Gunblade now if you want to kind of make the items work, kind of force it a little bit. But it is slightly awkward right now. Do you think maybe there's a way he could pivot into mech possibly with this? Because he's got QSS. No, now he's not going to. Now, definitely not with the Morellos, I would think. But I was wondering there was maybe an opportunity to go mech there with the items.
Actually, I think you're right. I actually think he can still go mech because he has the Morellos, which is core on Victor. It's the arguably. Actually, I don't even think it's arguable.
That's
it's
true,
the
yeah.
best item on Victor. He has a glove, which is super good in mech because he can build Quicksilver or Shroud. So I think your initial intuition, though, was actually right. He could just choose to go mech from here, which would sort of mitigate the fact that he's not hitting swords.
Yeah, because right now, especially when we knew that just a couple rounds ago, some of the other players are still looking to decide who their carries are going to be in the late game. Obviously, he's leaning a lot on this Shaco to carry in the meantime. But yes, the Rumble is right there in the shop. So if he goes ahead and picks that up, do it.
He won't buy the Rumble because he wants to hit 30 gold. But
yeah.
At least he probably won't. Maybe if he doesn't win the round, he will. But yeah, for some reason I was thinking Morello. I was only thinking about the mech and I wasn't thinking about Victor. But yeah, you're right. Morello is definitely the most important item on a Victor and still a way you can go mech. So he's got the QSS. If he finds another belt, you could go Warmogs on the mech. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. Playing against Bobe from Korea right now. Bobe is from Jeollanam-do, which is a province in the southwest part of Korea, and it's absolutely beautiful out there. There's like tons of islands. It's like really, really amazing, like idyllic countryside. It's like one of my favorite places on the peninsula. So just kind of thought I'd throw that out there. He's from a really, really nice area of Korea.
And
so I'm glad that you
very
said
aligned.
That.
I mean, Do's the one that has the experience.
Yeah, I for those who don't know, I lived in South Korea for 6 years doing esports stuff and got a chance to travel all over the country and it's just it's an awesome place. So what can I say?
That is a place that I hope to eventually go. So for now, I'll just have to dive into Do's memory whenever I want to take a vacation.
Which I'm sure you will. You'll get there.
Yeah, eventually we'll find my way that way. But it is interesting you're talking about where he's from, and Bobe is very much aligned with you in the sense that he also believes Korea to be one of the strongest regions based on the prowess of other esports, but the ladder itself for TFT being considered one of the harder ones too.
You know, let's be honest,
it's
Tigress. Everyone thinks their region's the best. And every time I ask people, like, why do you think your region's the best? It's like, oh, because they're so good at, playing flexibly or transitioning.
Because
truth is,
no
one
players,
knows.
Obviously.
Yeah,
This is
like,
the
we
first
haven't
time we're
had
going to
that many.
find out.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So after this, there's not going to be any more debate. Actually, there'll still be debate. They'll be like, oh, we have the best 10, even if you have the best one. Right? But at least we'll know who the best player in the world is.
Yeah, this is the time for somebody to finally grab that title and say it. But
we're only just getting started with TFT esports anyway. So like next year when there's like even more tournaments and even more international competition, then we'll get more real trash talk.
Doa, he got a fizz with chain.
I know.
As top half in the lobby, dude. People are just giving him this game now. So now he's definitely gonna go mech. He has a chain. He actually keep the chain on the fizz and just make a Shroud of Stillness. He already has, I think he has, okay, so I'll have to figure out what to do with the belt, but this is actually an amazing spot for Achan, and I feel like he should just roll at 7. Go ahead.
I think so too, but here's a question for you now. He put the Morellos on fizz. That's interesting. So he's still kind of playing out the Dark Star angle for now, but and he might still be planning just Dark Stars here, but as far as mech items go specifically, would you prioritize QSS or that Shroud more? I'm curious.
I would generally prioritize QSS just because it's really rough if you end up late game and you're like facing a Nico who's perma-stunning your mech or a Zephyr that will basically instantly lose you the fight. So it feels bad
Right.
sometimes if you build QSS and there ends up not being that much CC, but I would say it's the item that is the least fungible with other items in that you can't really replace it with another item. That said, if you're good enough at mech, you can just scout and constantly reposition your mech to dodge, but it's very, very skill intensive.
It's a lot harder to kind of like move that other unit in front of the mech at the last moment or something, you know. But with that, I wonder, because I really like the new Titan's Resolve basically, and I say new because it just like pops off faster at 25 stacks, which is great for mech. It was always a good item for mech, but I think it's a little bit better now. So I wonder if he's also just going to do QSS and then save that chain vest for something like that too. He's got a lot of options, but you know what surprises me though is that he put the Morello Nomicon on the Fizz, which like we were talking about earlier is normally an item you would put on the Victor. You normally don't put that on the mech. So he would have to sell the Fizz to get rid of it. So I wonder if he's just still thinking Dark Stars in his own mind here.
Yeah, it might just be a comfort thing, honestly. You know, if I were him, I would be thinking mech from this point for sure, because again, he has no sword for the
right?
Shaco,
Yeah.
right? And sword is really essential for Shaco. But in fairness to him, slamming Morellos on Fizz is sort of a health preservation move, because Fizz is much better at using that item than Mord. But yeah, this is interesting. It's not the play I would make, but I'm interested to see what happens if he doesn't get sword, if he still stays on the Dark Star route, or says, you know what, I'll just go mech and we'll remake the Fizz.
Yeah, so there are Dark Star builds that can still be successful, but we just don't see them as often. But maybe it's something on his server that he's found a little bit more success with. The Tigers, you're back with us.
I am.
Welcome back.
Thank you. A brief stint away, but back into the action. Seems like everything's going as expected, but that's a lot of items.
That's a lot of items, yeah.
And none of them are
what
swords.
I'm seeing right now, yeah, none of them are swords, but they are good mech items. So I'm seeing like Hand of Justice. I'm seeing Titan's Resolve and QSS. Think about that. Titan's Resolve, Hand of Justice, QSS. That is an insane mech, right?
Yeah, he's driving me crazy. Why is he not going mech? He even has a Victor and an Annie in the shop, bro. Please.
He really wants to play Dark Stars, but I think I feel like
this is a man who's committed. I respect the conviction. I really do think this is a mistake not to go mech. He could literally make the mech in like 2 turns here.
And he's got just like insane mech items too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I thought he was just trying to keep himself open to both options pretty much and willing to sacrifice that Fizz if needed, but heavier commitment than expected here. Primal, does that surprise you considering Darkstar is still strong, but maybe he's going for it after scouting the lobby, or what do you think his intentions are?
I mean, it could be that he scouted the lobby and saw mech was contested, but honestly, I just think this is a mistake. I mean, you have the Victor given you for free. He had a Hand of Justice he could have made, or he could have held it here for a Shojin's or a blue buff. And it's really difficult to play Shaco late game if you don't get the GA. Granted, he does have a chain, and he's going to have second pick on Carousel, so there's a chance that he gets it. But this is a pretty risky play to make from this point, and he's kind of relying on luck, because if you do not get the GA on Shaco, what'll happen is late game, he just sort of gets killed off before he can pop off.
Right.
And that feels super bad. But look, he knows what he wants to play, and let's see if he can prove me wrong.
I mean, you look at Calcifer's board that we saw just a round or two ago, and he already had a Shaco with the GA and all that. So, Achen a little bit behind in the Shaco head-to-head across the board as well. So as he looks like he's going to drop around to Hazti right here for Brazil, I'm really surprised he's going this route. Like you mentioned it, you said you thought it was a mistake. I would have to agree with you, honestly, and I hate saying that about a pro player, because generally you always, like, we know what his angle is, right? Like, he really believes in this Dark Star build. This is the decision he's chosen, but just looking at the opportunities he's had in the shop, the opportunities he's had with his items, I feel like this is an instance where sometimes as a player you get really tunneled on your plan, and it leads you to ignore what could be a better route to pivot throughout the game. It happens to everybody, even at this level. So you've got all these weird situations right now, right, where you've got a Shroud on Fizz, you've got a Dragon's Claw on Jin. Like it's the items are really strange, and the composition is just one that's just not that strong in the meta right now. It's like B at best. So yeah, I'm just kind of really surprised that he's committing with this direction.
Yeah. The good news though is he is hitting his units, right? He hit the Jin 2. And he does have good items on Shaco besides the Guardian Angel, so it's possible that he gets the sword and everything's Gucci and he just win streaks and he's top 4 anyway.
It's possible.
I think it's just the statistically probably safer play would have been to just go with what he was given, which was mech with mech items. But he can certainly still do well in this game, and you know I think that if he does well, then look, at the end of the day, he's there. I'm not. We're not, and maybe he was right and saw something we didn't.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He's currently in the middle of the lobby right now, 51 HP to his name after that heavy streaking that he did earlier. And he did manage. So, hey, there you go. We were all sitting here thinking, what is he thinking? And admittedly, he didn't know that was guaranteed, but it worked out for him.
This is so risky. He's he hit it, but like it's kind of like one of those situations where it's like, don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah.
Because you can't count on this kind of thing. But he definitely has a strong Shaco now. Like this build just got massively stronger.
Yeah, board's looking good.
Yes.
Board's looking good.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It was actually on a razor thin margin, right? Because he saw someone else go for the sword. Yeah. Any little bit of, like, if he had been a second farther from that sword, he doesn't get that there. So a little bit lucky, but he does have a fully itemized Shaco now. This is a really standard Darkstar game from this point. The key is for him to make sure that his Shaco is always threatening an enemy carry. Otherwise, Shaco can still get stuck on Vanguards and not do super well. But if I'm Achen, at this point, I feel comfortable. He probably breathed a sigh of relief, and he's more worried now about how do I get to 9, because he has basically his level 8 board already upgraded for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so great that he was able to get that Shaco early, which I guess is what encouraged him to commit to that more, being that, as we saw, somebody else had already had the GA, already the Bloodthirster on a Shaco. Unlikely for them to pivot unless they see exactly what's happening here. But now he's got what he's needed to try and carry him into the late game.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious to see how this Darkstar build is going to end up performing. Like I mentioned, it's just not something you see as often these days. So I would imagine with the Shaco items now, he might be able to top 4. But we'll see. He's doing a little bit of looking around the lobby. See Teemo snipers there. We'll check out a couple other boards here as well. Let's see. It looks like Cybernetics for Shoemaker from Japan. And that Aurelia is really strong. Oh, wow. Infiltrator Aurelia coming in.
Yeah, coming in hot. But the thing is, I think this matchup can be a little bit difficult for the Cybers player because Shaco kind of just farms your backline, and then he doesn't really have too much trouble killing off the rest of the team. So you're going to see Shaco just constantly healing. The Infiltrator Aurelia is strong, but usually the extra healing that Shaco's getting, as well as the damage he could get from Hand of Justice, means that there's not really a way for the Cybers player to win that matchup in that particular board.
Yeah. That GA makes all the difference, right? Like, that was definitely a fight that Shaco would have lost if it weren't for the Guardian Angels. So you can see that razor-thin margin we were talking about, where without the GA, that board loses. With the GA, suddenly it's very strong. But we're going to swap over, it looks like, and take a gander at Shoemaker's comp, which we just looked at. It is Cybernetics. And, you know, pretty good items on the Aurelia, but he's going to need a little bit more, it seems like.
Yeah, and Cybernetics in general being one of the stronger comps right now. Doe, I believe you said that you enjoy playing this comp particularly. What do you think the advantages are, especially considering that you're not locked into items like you are with a lot of the other comps?
I think it is a little bit more flexible because suddenly item components are almost as good as full items when you hit 6 Cybernetic because of the stat buff that it gives you from the trait, as you can see on the screen there. That said, there are a couple ones that you generally want to have. Infiltrator Claw on Aurelia is really good to get her to the back line. She can start one-shotting all of the carries on the other side. Redemption is a pretty core item for Cybernetics. Generally, you see that on Fiora, but having it on the Vi isn't that bad either. And now that he's found the Echo as well, he can maybe start to get some of that going. Another Hand of Justice on Aurelia. So this is just going to be a really, really strong Aurelia. So it looks like a pretty decent board. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of great that he hit a glove there because his items on Vayne are not particularly good. And usually when you see someone playing Cybers, the Vayne is actually the priority. But when you have Infiltrator, Spat, Aurelia, sort of all the standard stuff on how to play Cybers goes out the window, because Aurelia with Infiltrator, Spat is basically a 5 cost. Because she never gets stuck on any frontline unit. Oh my god, he just hit Echo 2. We're lit.
Wow, we rolled the 6% Echo 2.
There we go. So he should just go 9 at this point. Go 9, get Thresh in there, so he has Mana Reaver, and he's in a really strong position. Vayne items be damned, he's feeling really great.
Yeah, this is looking nasty for whoever he might go against. We even saw it in that previous round, the Zephyrs hitting some key carries like the Shaco. You're likely to get that quite frequently here when there's still a lot of players in. All 8 totally in at this point in time.
Yeah, Bobe with the Teemo snipers, and unfortunately for him, he didn't get the shrooms on Aurelia right away. He had maybe a chance to take that out. Let's see if maybe the Mord... No, it doesn't look like the Mord is strong enough to hold on. So once in a while, you can see the Aurelia get blown up by Teemo, but not the case this time. And yeah, this Cybernetics build is looking really good. And it's like Primal mentioned too. Like normally Vayne is a carry in this build as well. But if you find that Echo 2 early, and if you get the type of items that he did on Aurelia, you can kind of bypass that a little bit.
And we saw when he did the little pan over, there's actually a person with a more traditional cybernetic setup where they had the Vayne with, I think, Infinity Edge, Giant Slayer, and Last Whisper, which are the core items on Vayne. But I would actually take this position that Shoemaker's in over that any day, because Infiltrator Aurelia just allows you to zero out the Jinx that we saw in the lobby, takes out Jin really, really quickly, really, really difficult to deal with. So from this point, if I'm Shoemaker, I'm definitely playing for first. I'm saving my money to go 9, get that Thresh, get that Urgot, and put this game in a body bag.
Yeah, Big Aurelia definitely gets you a lot more first places than just a standard Vayne. So the standard cyberboard that you were just mentioning, Primal, is actually from Lev Trotsky from EU. And he's actually going to be able to win this round in the head-to-head. Interesting. Lev D really does love to play Cybernetics, though. He's been running with that comp for a long time. If you look at his recent ladder profile on EU West, he's been playing a lot of Cybernetics and getting a lot of firsts with it. So definitely an expert at piloting the comp. And, you know, it's that I love when you get to do the Infiltrator Claw Aurelia, but there's definitely something to be said for the good old standard, like, super beefy carry Vayne as well in this build.
And moments like that where... Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tigress.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that
you're both too polite.
Moments like that. You go. No, you go. But we saw that Aurelia was having such an impact, but with positioning wasn't able to get to the Vayne early. The Vi did and get the ult, but without being able to burst down. It was just what was needed from the traditional cybernetic comp to be able to shut this down.
Yeah, it's a matter of positioning.
You're exactly
if he's able to
right.
scout and get the...
Yeah, Levdi did a great job of actually placing a bait unit in the back. I think it might have been, I don't know who it was, but it was someone who was useless. And Aurelia ended up focusing that useless unit
Fiora.
instead of Vayne.
I don't know.
A Fiora. Actually, that's great because sometimes Fiora can actually stun the Aurelia. So that was great. That's how you win the mirror matchup. I still think that Shoemaker is going to be favored probably 70-30 when they go head-to-head. But if there's a way to come back into the game in that mirror matchup, that would be it.
Yeah, a lot of those late game rounds come down to, you know, one thing, right? Where in this case, it's if the Aurelia jumps on the Vayne, the Aurelia player wins. If the Vayne doesn't have the pressure early on, then the Vayne player wins. But man, Urgot just ate a big beefy meal there, but it looks like it wasn't enough. Yeah, Volteriax looks like he's gonna get the win with that big victor. Oh, maybe not. Oh my gosh, the Vayne won. What?
One Vayne.
All right. Let's
this
go.
Like, I am still the carry. Look at me. I'm still the
all
carry.
day, every day.
That's some deserved breakdancing right there after that taking down Victor.
Dude,
so
are we
going to
see an Aurelia 3?
I was about to say, yeah, one thing we need to keep in mind is he's 2 Aurelias away from an Aurelia 3, and it'll be hard to hit that. No, actually, it won't be hard to hit that because Lev D is out in 7th, so those Aurelias are freed up now. So Obo from Australia and Lev D from, I believe, Denmark out in 7th and 8th in this game already. Calcifer from Colombia on the way out as well. And so the lobby's starting to kind of narrow down now.
And everyone in this lobby is obviously strong. They've earned their place here. Lev D a favorite by some. Obo kind of a dark horse in this after winning the qualifier to get here. but still staying on Shoemaker. Is he going to put the nail in the coffin for the Colombian representative, Calcifer? The Shaco feeling too good right now. 2 stars.
Oh my god. That feeling
Shaco,
when your
what can you say?
4-cost, who has almost perfect items, just gets one shot by the Shaco at 3-cost. Feels bad, but that's the difficulty in this matchup, right? Like, if Shaco has a GA, it's really, really hard to burst him down before he just heals to full. And then even when you do burst him down, he gets another life on you. So I think this matchup is particularly difficult for the Cybers player. That said, I think with some cleaner positioning and having the Wukong too to maybe bait the Shaco, he can win this matchup. Because Shaco, one of his few weaknesses is that if he gets stuck on a Vanguard, he can have a problem, cutting through that and then getting to the squishier units. So Shoemaker can still win this, and he has plenty of room to grow. He needs the Wukong 2, he needs the Vayne 2. As Doa mentioned, he could get the Aurelia 3. So there's still a lot of power ahead for him. Ooh, and there's a Wukong.
Oh, well, right there, he gets a nice little power boost from hitting level 9, immediately finding that Wukong 2. And the Vayne 2 helps a little bit as well. Frozen Heart on Echo is great because Echo is going to be bouncing all over the place with his ult, so he's going to apply that attack speed slow to a lot of people with the Frozen Heart. So it's still a strong board, and like you mentioned, Primal, he's got time. He's got the time, he's got the HP. What, Voltarius, though, hits a Victor 3? Okay, this lobby is getting crazy now.
Victor 3 is going to be so impactful, and we'll have to see how that stuff ends up carrying out, because we're just talking about what the Shaco is doing for Calcifer, who's been on a win streak, but he's still only at that 2 HP. So if you're over here as Shoemaker, you're hoping that he'll be knocked out by the next time you would have to face him, because your Aurelia is feeling good, very close to the 3-star, and your board's looking nice with 35 HP at the top of the lobby.
Yeah, and that loss, for Hasty feels bad, right? Because he even got the Zephyr on the Aurelia, but I think Cybers just farms Jinx every single time, particularly when you get the Echo 2, because what will happen is Echo 2 will target the unit with the highest attack speed, so he'll just focus down the Jinx. He even has a Frozen Heart to slow her attack speed, so I think that matchup is just kind of impossible. And Hasty, from this point, if I were him, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to take a first, I'm just trying to get a third or a second here, and I'll be happy with that. But even so, his comp is just not one of the stronger comps right now. So it'll require a little bit of finessing with the Blitz and the Jinx and the Zephyr play to place higher than a 4th.
I'm just looking at that 3-star.
Oh my god.
Looking so handsome.
That's disgusting.
That Victor is going to do an insane amount of damage, as you can see. When I looked at this comp earlier, I was like, all right, I think Voltarius has a really good chance of winning this lobby. Maybe the Aurelia 3 can bail out Shoemaker here. But looking like Voltarius, who we're going to swap to here, is on track to possibly win it. Calcifer finally drops out. Bobe from Korea out as well. So we got our top 4, at least for lobby number 1.
Yeah,
which is extremely important for the points. 5 games in total to accumulate to as many as possible to be top 4 to move on to the finals tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And I actually love this comp by Voltarius. This is not even like a meta comp. This is just him playing really strong units, playing flexibly. Like, it's not often that you see a Victor 3, but regardless, to even be picking up the Victors in combination with Vanguards and Xerath is not something you typically see. So this is actually really beautiful, fluid play by Voltarius. He's playing what he hit, and he's rewarded. He just basically one-shot that Jinx there.
Jinx wasn't able to do anything in that situation, so Hajji ends up going out in that number 4 spot, and it looks like Achen also has fallen, so we're down to the top 2.
Yep. There's the Aurelia 3 for Shoemaker, if you can grab it.
Do it.
Voltarius, he's going to just deny it. I love it.
Love it.
Nope.
Oh,
you ain't
the
getting
dirty
that.
deny. You knew it.
And that's just good. That's just good board awareness, right? To know, hey, they're looking for Aurelia 3. I'm gonna snag that on Carousel. I don't care what item it has, because this item is not particularly good. Yeah, great play.
He's not gonna sell that Aurelia. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we're talking about the flexibility that he shows, that he's not necessarily known as someone to have in particular comps he always gravitates towards. And hey, part of that is denying your opponent.
Right? And look at Shoemaker rolling down. That feels so bad. He's selling everything to try to find that Aurelia. But so Voltarius hitting that Aurelia, in addition to taking off Carousel, takes it out of the pool. So he actually might have just won the game off of that play alone.
Yep, you can see right at the end of the round when it's too late to find one, he sells it and puts the item on the thresh. So really, just really clean play. And this is why a lot of players are, as he wins the game, this is why a lot of players are calling Voltairix the best player in EU, because it plays like that. Super clean game, super good awareness of finding the things in his shop that are going to make him really strong, playing something unorthodox. I'm really impressed.